When hotel maid Layla Monroe walks into the wrong suite, she finds more than a guest. She finds Cameron Holt, a disgraced billionaire hiding from scandal. But as their worlds collide, a simple mistake could change everything, or ruin it all. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The morning sun beat down on Layla Monroe's dark skin as she pushed her cleaning cart along the open-air hallway of the Seabreeze Resort. The Atlantic Ocean sparkled in the distance, a view the guests paid thousands to enjoy, a view she only glimpsed while making beds and scrubbing toilets. "Layla, there you are!" Mrs. Winters, the head of housekeeping, rushed toward her with a clipboard. Her grey hair was pulled back in a tight bun, her uniform perfectly pressed despite the Carolina humidity. "Tina called in sick. I need you to take the North Wing suites." Layla sighed. The North Wing meant the premium suites. More work, same pay. "I was just about to start my regular rooms. I'll have someone cover those." Mrs. Winters handed her a different key card. "Start with 808. The guest has been very insistent about privacy, so knock loudly before entering." "Fine." Layla tucked the key card into her pocket. One more thing to juggle. She still had to call her sister's social worker after her shift, check on next month's home visit, and somehow find time to study for her online business class. She turned her cart around and headed toward the North Wing, the wheels squeaking against the polished marble floor. The resort was a different world from the tiny apartment she rented in town. Here, everything gleamed. Everything, except the staff. When she reached room 808, Layla knocked 3 times. "Housekeeping." No answer. She knocked again, louder. Still nothing. Perfect. An empty room would make things easier. She swiped the key card and pushed the door open with her hip, pulling the cart behind her. The suite was enormous, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the ocean. Soft white curtains billowed in the breeze. A half-empty glass of whiskey sat on the coffee table. The bed was unmade, and clothes were scattered across a leather armchair. Layla had just started collecting dirty towels when she heard the bathroom door open. Finally, room service. She spun around and froze. A man stood in the doorway, hair wet from the shower, a white towel wrapped around his waist. Water droplets clung to his broad shoulders and chest. He looked as startled as she felt. "You're not room service," he said, eyebrow raised. He was right, and she was in trouble. "I'm so sorry." Layla stepped back, nearly tripping over her cart. "There must have been a mix-up. Mrs. Winters gave me this room to clean, but clearly you're—" "I should go." She expected anger, a complaint to management, maybe even getting fired on the spot. What she didn't expect was the man's curious expression. "Wait." His voice was deep, confident. "Don't run off." Layla hesitated, hand on the door handle. "Sir, I really shouldn't be here while you're—" She gestured vaguely at his half-naked state. He smiled, and something in his eyes made her pause. Not mockery or condescension, the looks she usually got from guests. Instead, there was something like relief. "Give me 2 minutes to put on clothes. Then maybe you could help me with something." Before she could answer, he disappeared back into the bathroom. Layla stood awkwardly by the door, debating whether to leave anyway. But something told her to stay. He emerged wearing jeans and pulling a grey t-shirt over his head. Without the distraction of his bare chest, Layla noticed his face properly for the first time. Strong jaw, kind eyes, and a weariness that seemed at odds with his luxury surroundings. "I'm Cameron," he said, extending his hand. "Layla." She shook it briefly, still confused by this entire interaction. "I really should be cleaning other rooms. I ordered breakfast an hour ago. It never came." He ran a hand through his damp hair. "I'd call again, but honestly, I'd rather not deal with people right now. Any chance you could help?" There was something in his voice, a genuine plea beneath the simple request, like a man who'd had enough of something Layla couldn't quite name. "That's not really my job," she said carefully. "I know," he smiled again, "but you seem like the first real person I've met in a very long time." The comment caught her off guard. "What makes you think I'm real? You look at me like I'm just some guy who forgot to put on a shirt. Not like—" He trailed off. "Not like what?" "Not like I'm someone worth impressing." He gestured toward the room service menu on the table. "Please? I'll make it worth your time." Layla knew she should say no, but curiosity got the better of her. "What do you want to eat?" His face brightened. "Anything that isn't fancy. I've had enough tiny portions on enormous plates to last a lifetime." 15 minutes later, Layla returned with a tray she'd charmed from the kitchen staff, a club sandwich, fries, and a chocolate milkshake. Not the gourmet breakfast usually served to North Wing guests. Cameron's face lit up when he saw it. Now that's real food. He insisted she sit while he ate, which made Layla nervous. If Mrs. Winters found her chatting with a guest instead of cleaning, she'd be in serious trouble. "I can't stay," she said, but found herself perching on the edge of an armchair anyway. "Tell me something," Cameron said between bites. "What's it like working here? Seeing how the other half lives?" The question surprised her. Guests never asked about her life. "It's a job," she answered carefully. "The pay is decent. The benefits are good. But," Layla hesitated, "but sometimes it feels like I'm invisible, like I'm part of the furniture." He nodded like he understood, which was impossible. A man staying in this suite couldn't possibly know what it felt like to be overlooked. "You'd be surprised," he said as if reading her thoughts. "Sometimes being seen too much is just as bad as not being seen at all." Before she could ask what he meant, her walkie-talkie crackled. Mrs. Winter's voice cut through the static. "Layla, what's your status on 808? Cameron put a finger to his lips, his eyes playful. "Just finishing up," Layla replied, heart racing. "Moving to 810 next. Pick up the pace. We have VIPs checking in at 3. Layla stood quickly. "I need to go. I shouldn't have been talking to you at all." "Will you be working tomorrow?" Cameron asked, something like hope in his voice. "I work every day." The words came out more bitter than she intended. "Then maybe we'll run into each other again." He pulled out his wallet, for the food and the company. He tried to hand her a $100 bill, but Layla stepped back, pride flaring. "I don't need your money. I didn't mean—" "I know exactly what you meant." She grabbed her cart. "Enjoy your stay, sir." She left before he could respond, angry at herself for getting pulled into a moment that could never go anywhere. Men like him didn't see women like her. Not really. They saw convenience, service, maybe a brief distraction. Nothing more. But as she cleaned the next room, she couldn't stop thinking about the way he'd looked at her, like he was actually seeing her. And the strange thing was, for the first time in years, she'd felt seen. The next 3 days passed in a blur of sheets, towels, and cleaning sprays. Layla worked double shifts, covering for another housekeeper who'd quit without notice. By Friday, her feet ached, and her mind was foggy with exhaustion. As she pushed her cart past room 808, the door opened. Cameron stepped out, dressed in a crisp blue button-down and holding a laptop. "Layla," he smiled like running into her was the best part of his day. "I was hoping I'd see you." She glanced nervously down the hallway. "I can't talk. I'm already behind schedule." "I understand." He looked disappointed but not surprised. "I just wanted to apologize for the other day. I didn't mean to offend you." "You didn't." She paused. "I overreacted." "No, you didn't." His voice was firm. "You stood up for yourself. That's rare around here." A guest from another room walked past, giving them a curious look. Layla tensed. "I really need to keep working." Cameron nodded. "Of course, but maybe, if you get a break later." He hesitated. "I ordered too much food for dinner. It would be a shame to waste it." The invitation hung in the air between them. Part of Layla wanted to say yes. A bigger part knew better. "I don't think that's a good idea." "Probably not," he agreed with a small smile. "But sometimes the best things aren't good ideas at first." Before she could respond, her walkie-talkie crackled again. Mrs. Winters wanted her at the front desk. "I have to go." "Think about it," Cameron called after her. "Room service delivers at 7. I'll order extra." Layla spent the rest of her shift battling with herself. She shouldn't go to his room. It was unprofessional, risky, potentially job-ending if anyone found out. But at 6:50, after clocking out and changing into her street clothes, jeans and a simple green blouse, she found herself walking toward the north wing instead of the employee exit. She knocked on door 808, heart pounding. Cameron opened it, surprise and pleasure washing over his face. "You came." "I shouldn't be here," she said immediately. "Probably not," he agreed, stepping back to let her in. "But I'm glad you are." The suite had been transformed. The balcony doors were open, letting in the sound of waves and the scent of salt air. A small table was set for 2, with covered silver dishes and a bottle of wine. "I wasn't sure what you liked," Cameron said, suddenly seeming nervous, "so I ordered a bit of everything." Layla's instinct was to run. This was too intimate, too date-like. But her growling stomach and something else, curiosity maybe, or loneliness, kept her rooted to the spot. "I can't stay long," she said, but allowed him to pull out a chair for her. "That's okay." He sat across from her. "Quality over quantity, right?" As they ate, steak for him, grilled salmon for her, Cameron asked about her life. Not in the polite, disinterested way guests sometimes did. He asked follow-up questions, remembered details, seemed genuinely interested in her answers. "So you're working here to save money for your sister?" he asked, refilling her water glass. She declined the wine. Layla nodded. "Tasha's 16. She's been in foster care since our mum died 3 years ago. I wasn't old enough to get custody then, but now," she took a deep breath, "I need to prove I have stable housing, income, and can provide for her. The cleaning job pays well enough, and I'm taking online classes to get my business degree." "That's impressive," Cameron said, and he sounded like he meant it. "What kind of business do you want to start?" "A cleaning service, actually." She laughed at his surprised expression. "I know it doesn't sound glamorous, but I'm good at it. And there's a market here with all the vacation rentals." "It sounds smart," he said, "and practical." "What about you?" Layla asked, suddenly realizing she knew nothing about him, except his first name. "What brings you to the sea breeze?" A shadow crossed his face. "Hiding, mostly." "From what?" He hesitated, then sighed. "From a mistake, a public one." He set down his fork. "How much do you know about me, Layla?" "Nothing," she admitted. "Should I?" A strange expression flickered across his face, relief mixed with disbelief. "So you have no idea who I am?" "Should I?" Cameron laughed, a genuine sound that transformed his face. No, you shouldn't. And that's the most refreshing thing I've heard in months." Before he could explain further, a knock at the door interrupted them. Cameron tensed. "Are you expecting someone?" Layla whispered, panic rising. "If it was another staff member—" "No." He stood quickly. "Wait here." He opened the door just enough to see who was outside. Layla heard a woman's voice, insistent and slightly slurred. "Cam, I know you're in there. Security told me which room." "Jessica, this isn't a good time." "It's never a good time anymore, is it?" The woman's voice rose. "You can't hide forever. The board wants answers. I want answers. We'll talk tomorrow, when you're sober." "Don't patronize me." Something thudded against the door. "After everything I did for you—" "Good night, Jessica." Cameron's voice was firm as he closed the door, but Layla saw the tension in his shoulders. "I should go," she said, standing quickly. "No, please." He ran a hand through his hair. "I'm sorry about that." "Who was she?" "My ex-fiancée." His jaw tightened. "It's complicated." Layla grabbed her purse. "This was a mistake. I don't know anything about you, and I'm getting involved in something that could cost me my job." "Layla, wait!" Cameron moved closer. "You're right, you deserve an explanation. My name is Cameron Holt. I ran a tech company called Privasphere. It was in all the papers a few months ago." The name sounded vaguely familiar. Layla had seen headlines about a privacy scandal, something about data breaches and corporate espionage. "Your company did something wrong?" "No." His eyes flashed. "I was set up by my fiancée and my chief financial officer. They were having an affair and planned to take control of the company. When I discovered their embezzlement, they leaked false stories to the press, claiming I'd sold user data. And people believed them? Jessica comes from a powerful family. She knows how to spin a story." He sighed. "I stepped down temporarily while the investigation runs its course, but the damage to my reputation—" He trailed off. "So you're hiding out here?" He nodded. "Pathetic, right? It should have been. A billionaire feeling sorry for himself in a luxury resort. But the pain in his eyes was real. "It's not pathetic to need space after being betrayed," she said softly. Their eyes met, and something shifted in the air between them. Understanding, connection, maybe even the beginning of trust. "You're the first person who hasn't judged me," he said, his voice rough. "The first person who's just talked to me like a normal human being in months." "That's because I didn't know who you were," Layla pointed out. "And now that you do—" She studied him for a moment. "You're still just a guy who ordered too much room service." Cameron smiled, relief washing over his face. "I'd like to see you again, Layla. Not here, somewhere you won't have to worry about losing your job. Maybe coffee in town." Warning bells rang in Layla's mind. This couldn't go anywhere good. "You're a billionaire. I'm the maid. Whatever this is, it can't go anywhere." "Why not?" "Be serious, Cameron." "I am being serious." He took a step closer. "I like talking to you. You make me feel normal again." "I'm not a therapy session," she said, more sharply than she intended. "That's not what I meant." He looked frustrated. "I'm explaining this all wrong." "It doesn't matter how you explain it. We live in different worlds. But we're standing in the same room right now." He reached for her hand. "Just coffee. As friends." His touch sent warmth up her arm. It had been so long since anyone had touched her with such gentleness. Still, she pulled away. "I need to go. Thank you for dinner." Cameron didn't try to stop her this time, but as she reached the door, he called after her. "Layla, I'm here for 2 more weeks. If you change your mind." She didn't answer, just closed the door behind her, heart racing with emotions she couldn't name. As she walked through the lobby, a woman sitting at the bar caught her eye. Beautiful, expensively dressed, with a martini glass in her manicured hand. Their gazes met, and the woman's eyes narrowed in recognition. Jessica. It had to be. Layla hurried past, but not before seeing the woman pull out her phone and start typing, her eyes following Layla all the way to the employee exit. Whatever had started in room 808, Layla had a sinking feeling it was about to get much more complicated. The morning staff meeting was tense. Mrs. Winters stood at the front of the break room, her thin lips pressed into a tight line. "I've received complaints about staff fraternizing with guests," she announced, her gaze sweeping across the room before landing directly on Layla. "Let me remind everyone that this is grounds for immediate termination." Layla's stomach clenched. Had Jessica reported her, or had someone else seen her entering Cameron's room? She kept her face carefully neutral as Mrs. Winters continued. "The North Wing guests expect discretion and professionalism, not distractions." The last word dripped with meaning. When the meeting ended, Layla rushed to check her assignment sheet. Room 808 had been reassigned to Tina, who had miraculously recovered from her illness. That couldn't be a coincidence. "Layla," Mrs. Winters' voice stopped her at the door. "A word, please." This was it. She was about to get fired. Panic rose in her throat. "Yes, ma'am? Mr. Phillips wants to see you in his office." Mr. Phillips was the resort manager. Layla had only spoken to him once, during her initial interview 3 years ago. Did he say why? "I think we both know why." Mrs. Winters gave her a cold look. "Clean yourself up before you go." Layla's hands trembled as she smoothed her uniform and checked her appearance in the break room mirror. Her braids were neatly pulled back, her uniform spotless. Not that it would matter if she was about to lose her job. Mr. Phillips's office was on the top floor, with a view overlooking the entire resort. He was a tall man with steel grey hair and the permanent tan of someone who played golf every weekend. "Ah, Miss Monroe." He looked up from his computer. "Please have a seat." Layla perched on the edge of the chair, her back straight. "Mrs. Winters said you wanted to see me, sir." "Yes." He folded his hands on the desk. "It's come to my attention that you've been providing special services to one of our guests." Heat rushed to her face. "Sir, let me finish." He held up a hand. "Mr. Holt has specifically requested you as his personal attendant for the remainder of his stay. He's offered to pay a premium for the service." Layla blinked, confusion replacing fear. "I don't understand." "Neither do I," Mr. Phillips said dryly. "But Mr. Holt is a very important guest, and we aim to please. You'll be relieved of your regular duties and assigned exclusively to Suite 808. To clean?" Layla asked, still not quite understanding. "To provide whatever services Mr. Holt requires, within reason, of course." He slid a paper across the desk. "This is a temporary contract. Your pay will be doubled during this assignment." Layla stared at the contract, mind racing. "And if I refuse?" Mr. Phillips raised an eyebrow. "Why would you?" "It's an opportunity most staff would jump at, because it felt dangerous, because the rumors would be unbearable, because she had already crossed a line she shouldn't have." "I'll need to think about it," she said. Mr. Holt was quite insistent. Mr. Phillips leaned forward. "Between us, Ms. Monroe, the resort is struggling this season. Having someone of Mr. Holt's stature stay with us and be happy could make a significant difference. In other words, refusing wasn't really an option, not if she wanted to keep her job." "When would this start?" "Immediately." Mr. Phillips smiled, sensing her capitulation. "Mr. Holt is expecting you at noon." Layla's knock on door 808 was answered immediately. Cameron opened the door, relief washing over his face when he saw her. "You came." His smile faded when he noticed her expression. "What's wrong? What did you do?" She brushed past him into the suite. "Mr. Phillips called me into his office. He says I'm your personal attendant now." Cameron had the grace to look embarrassed. "I was trying to help." "Help?" Layla's voice rose. "Do you have any idea what people are going to think? What they're already thinking?" "I didn't consider." "Of course you didn't." She crossed her arms. "You're used to getting what you want. You don't think about the consequences for other people." Cameron ran a hand through his hair. "You're right, I'm sorry. I just wanted to see you again, and after what you said about being worried about your job, so you thought you'd buy me?" The words came out harsh. "No." He looked genuinely horrified. "That's not what this is." "Then what is it?" Cameron sank onto the couch. I don't know. I just know that talking to you the other night was the first time I've felt normal in months. Not like Cameron Holt, disgraced CEO, just like a person. Layla's anger softened despite herself. You can't just rearrange people's lives because you're lonely. I know. He looked up at her. I'll fix this. I'll tell Phillips you're not comfortable with the arrangement, but he hesitated. Before you go, could we talk? Just for a little while? She should say no, walk out and go back to her regular duties. Forget she ever met Cameron Holt. Instead, she found herself sitting down across from him. Fine. Talk. Relief washed over his face. Thank you. Can I get you anything? Water? Coffee? Just talk, Cameron. He nodded. I wanted to explain about Jessica. What you saw last night is none of my business, Layla cut in. But I want it to be. The quiet intensity in his voice caught her off guard. I want someone to know the truth, the whole truth. So she listened as he told his story, how he'd built Privasphere from nothing, with a mission to create truly secure communication tools. How he'd met Jessica Barrett at a charity gala 3 years ago and been captivated by her intelligence and ambition. How they'd gotten engaged last summer. I thought we wanted the same things, he said, staring out at the ocean. A company that made a difference, a relationship built on trust. But 6 months ago, he'd discovered irregularities in the company finances. Private emails between Jessica and his CFO, Michael, revealed not just an affair, but a plan to frame Cameron for selling user data to advertisers, the exact opposite of everything Privasphere stood for. They needed me out of the way, Cameron said bitterly. Jessica's family has connections with our biggest competitor. The plan was to tank our stock, force me out, then sell the company's patents for millions. And they succeeded, Layla asked. Partially. I stepped back temporarily while the investigation runs its course. My legal team is building a case. He sighed. But the damage to the company's reputation, to my reputation, some things you can't undo. So you're hiding. I prefer to think of it as regrouping. A hint of his earlier smile returned. And then I met you. Layla shifted uncomfortably under his gaze. I'm not sure what that has to do with anything. You don't look at me like I'm a failure, or like I'm a meal ticket. You just see me. I didn't even know who you were until yesterday, she pointed out. Exactly. He leaned forward. Do you know how rare that is in my life? To meet someone who doesn't want something from me? A knock at the door interrupted them. Cameron answered it, accepting a folder from someone Layla couldn't see. The information you requested, Mr. Holt, a male voice said. Thank you. Cameron closed the door and returned to the couch, the folder in his hands. I hope you don't mind. I had my assistant do some research. Alarm bells rang in Layla's head. Research on what? Foster care regulations in North Carolina. Requirements for gaining custody. He opened the folder. You mentioned your sister, Tasha, right? Layla stiffened. You looked into my personal life. Cameron's enthusiasm dimmed at her tone. I thought I could help. I don't need your help. She stood up. I need my job and my privacy. Layla, wait. He set the folder aside. I overstepped again. I'm sorry, it's just, when I hear about a problem, my instinct is to fix it. My sister isn't a problem to be fixed. My life isn't a charity project for you to feel good about. Cameron's face fell. That's not how I see you, at all. The sincerity in his voice made her pause. Maybe he really was trying to help in his billionaire, boundary-crossing way. Look, she said more gently, I appreciate that you want to help. But this arrangement, me being at your beck and call, it's not going to work. What if it wasn't about work? He stood up, moving closer. What if we just spent time together, as friends? Friends? Layla raised an eyebrow. People will still talk. Let them. He shrugged. My reputation is already in shambles. What's one more rumor? Easy for you to say. You'll leave in 2 weeks. I'll still be here, dealing with the fallout. Cameron was quiet for a moment, thinking. What if we were more careful? Met off the resort property? The suggestion made her heart beat faster. Part of her, a part she didn't want to acknowledge, was drawn to him, to his honesty, his flawed attempts at connection, the way he looked at her like she mattered. I don't think one dinner, he pressed, in town where no one from the resort will see us. If you hate it, I'll never bother you again. It was a bad idea. She knew it was a bad idea. And yet, one dinner, she agreed reluctantly, as friends. His smile was like sunshine breaking through clouds. Cameron sent a car for her the next evening. Not a flashy limo that would draw attention, but a discreet black sedan with tinted windows. The driver took her to a small restaurant on the outskirts of town, the kind of place tourists never visited. Cameron was waiting inside, at a table in the back. He stood when he saw her, his eyes taking in her simple blue dress and silver earrings, the nicest things she owned. "You look beautiful," he said. "This isn't a date," she reminded him, but couldn't help smiling. "Of course not." He pulled out her chair. "Just two friends having dinner." The restaurant was cozy, with checkered tablecloths and candles in wine bottles. The owner greeted Cameron like an old friend. "You know this place?" Layla asked after they ordered. "I found it yesterday. I asked around for the best local food away from the tourist traps." He looked pleased with himself. "The owner said his mother still makes all the desserts. You did reconnaissance for our non-date. I wanted it to be perfect." He paused. "Sorry, that sounded date-like, didn't it?" Layla laughed despite herself. A little. The evening passed in easy conversation. Cameron asked about her classes, her plans for her business. He listened intently as she explained her idea for an eco-friendly cleaning service specializing in vacation rentals. "There's a market gap," she explained, warming to her subject. "The big companies use harsh chemicals and don't pay attention to details, but property owners want their high-end rentals treated with care." "You've really thought this through," Cameron said, impressed. "I have a business plan and everything." She took a sip of her water. "I just need capital to get started. Equipment, supplies, a work van. I could—" "Don't." She held up a hand. "Don't offer me money, please." Cameron looked like he wanted to argue, but nodded. "Okay, but can I at least offer advice? As someone who's started a business, that I'll accept." She smiled. As they shared dessert, homemade peach cobbler that was every bit as good as promised, Cameron asked about her sister. "Tasha turns 17 next month," Layla said. "She's smart, stubborn, reminds me of our mom." She traced patterns in the condensation on her water glass. "After Mom died, I tried to get custody, but I was only 23, no stable housing, working 2 part-time jobs. The court said no. And now? Now I have a shot. I've saved almost enough for a security deposit on a 2-bedroom apartment. Once I have that and show I can maintain it for 3 months, I can reapply." "What about your father?" Cameron asked carefully. "Never in the picture." Layla's voice was matter-of-fact. "It's always been just me, Mom, and Tasha." "You were raised by a single mother too," Cameron said. "Mine worked 2 jobs to put me through college. She died before Previsphere took off." The shared experience created a bridge between them. For the rest of the evening, they traded stories about determined mothers who had sacrificed everything for their children. By the time the car dropped Layla at her apartment, something had shifted between them, a deeper understanding, a connection that went beyond their different worlds. "I had a nice time," she admitted as they stood by the car. "Nice enough to do it again?" Cameron asked, hope in his voice. She should say no, but the word that came out was, maybe. His smile was worth the risk. The next week passed in a blur. At the resort, Layla maintained a professional distance, cleaning Cameron's suite efficiently while he was out. But several evenings a week, the black sedan would pick her up after her shift, taking her to meet Cameron at different spots along the coast. They had dinner at a dockside restaurant where fishermen brought in the daily catch. They walked along a secluded beach, talking for hours as the sun set. One afternoon, when she had a rare day off, they visited a small local museum where Cameron listened intently as Layla shared stories her mother had told her about the area's history. "My mom used to clean houses for some of the oldest families around here," she explained as they looked at photographs of the town from the 1920s. "She learned all their stories, their secrets. She'd tell me and Tasha at bedtime, like our own private history lessons." Cameron watched her face as she spoke, a soft expression in his eyes. "You really love it here, don't you?" "It's home," she shrugged. "Even if I'm just cleaning up after people who visit for a week and leave." "You're more than that," he said firmly. "Your business plan proves it." On the drive back to her apartment, Cameron was unusually quiet. When the car stopped, he turned to her. "I've been thinking," he said slowly, "about your business idea." Layla tensed. "I told you I don't want your money." "Not money, connections." He took her hand. "I know people who own vacation properties all along the coast. People who would pay premium rates for the kind of service you're describing." "Now, why would you do that?" "Because I believe in you." The simple statement made her heart skip. "And because what?" Cameron hesitated, then said quietly, "Because I'm falling in love with you, Layla. And I know that complicates everything, but I can't pretend anymore that this is just friendship." Layla pulled her hand away. "Cameron, we've known each other for a week." 10 days, he corrected with a small smile. "And I know it sounds crazy, But these have been the most real days I've had in years. You're leaving next week, she reminded him. Going back to your world. What if I didn't? He turned to face her fully. What if I stayed? Worked remotely while the legal issues with Privasphere get sorted out? You can't just change your entire life because of whatever this is. Why not? The challenge in his voice was gentle but firm. If these past 10 days have taught me anything, it's that money and status don't bring happiness. Being with someone real does. Layla's heart raced. Part of her wanted to believe him, to dive into this unexpected connection and see where it led. But the practical part, the part that had survived since her mother's death, held back. I need time to think, she said finally. Cameron nodded, disappointment and understanding mingling in his expression. Of course, no pressure. But as she climbed the stairs to her apartment, Layla knew it wasn't that simple. Cameron had crashed into her carefully ordered life like a meteor, and nothing would be the same again. The next day, Layla was changing sheets in room 712 when her walkie-talkie crackled. "Layla, report to Mr. Phillips's office immediately." Mrs. Winter's voice was tight with what sounded like suppressed glee. A knot formed in Layla's stomach. She'd been careful, so careful. No one from the resort had seen her with Cameron. Mr. Phillips wasn't alone in his office. A woman sat across from his desk, her back to the door. When she turned, Layla recognized Jessica Barrett. In person, she was even more striking. Expertly highlighted blonde hair, designer clothes, a face that belonged on magazine covers. "Ms. Monroe." Mr. Phillips's voice was cold. "Ms. Barrett has brought some concerns to my attention." Jessica's smile was razor-sharp. "I was just explaining how certain members of the staff have been harassing Mr. Holt during his stay." "Harassing?" Layla repeated, disbelief coloring her voice. "Following him into town, arranging accidental meetings." Jessica examined her manicured nails. "Cameron is too polite to complain, of course, but as his fiancé, I felt it was my duty to intervene." "Ex-fiancé," Layla corrected, before she could stop herself. Jessica's eyes narrowed. "Our relationship status is complicated, but very much intact." "Ms. Barrett has provided evidence," Mr. Phillips said, sliding several photographs across the desk. Layla's heart sank as she looked at them. Cameron and her walking on the beach, sitting at the dockside restaurant, standing close together outside her apartment building. "You had him followed?" The realization made her feel sick. "I was concerned about his mental state," Jessica said smoothly. "After his breakdown, the scandal affected him deeply." "This is a clear violation of our staff policy," Mr. Phillips said, his expression grave. "Fraternizing with guests is strictly prohibited." "But he requested me as his personal attendant," Layla protested. "A request we now understand was made under duress," Mr. Phillips replied. "Ms. Barrett has explained how Mr. Holt has been too kind to report your inappropriate behavior." "That's not true!" Layla looked from Jessica's triumphant face to Mr. Phillips's closed expression. "None of this is true. I'm afraid we have no choice but to terminate your employment, effective immediately," Mr. Phillips said. "Security will escort you to collect your belongings." Panic rose in Layla's throat. "Please, Mr. Phillips, I need this job. My sister—" "Should have thought of that before you started stalking my fiancé." Jessica stood, smoothing her designer dress. "Consider yourself lucky we're not pressing charges." Two security guards appeared at the door. Layla's legs felt weak as they escorted her to the employee locker room, where she numbly collected her things. Staff members watched and whispered as she was marched through the lobby and out the employee entrance. "Don't come back on the property," one guard warned as they confiscated her ID badge. Tears blurred her vision as she walked to the bus stop. Everything she'd worked for, gone in an instant. Her plans for Tasha, for their future together, crumbling around her. And Cameron. Had he known about Jessica's presence at the resort? Had this all been an elaborate game to him? The thought that she might have been played, that their connection might have been false, hurt more than losing her job. By the time she reached her apartment, anger had replaced shock. She tried calling the resort asking for Cameron's room, but the operator refused to connect her. She had no way to reach him, to hear his side of the story. As night fell, Layla sat at her small kitchen table, surrounded by bills and her half-finished business plan. Without her job, she couldn't make rent next month, let alone save for the apartment she needed to get custody of Tasha. A knock at her door startled her, probably Mrs. Garcia from next door wondering why she was home early. But when she opened the door, no one was there, just a plain white envelope on the welcome mat. Inside was a hotel keycard and a handwritten note. You walked into my room by accident, but you walked into my life on purpose. Room 808 is yours, if you're ready to stop running." Layla stared at the keycard, turning it over in her trembling hands. Cameron had found her. But what did it mean? Was he offering help? A way back into the resort? Or something more? And after everything that had happened with Jessica, could she trust him at all? She clutched the key to her chest, torn between hope and fear as the night closed in around her apartment. Layla stared at the keycard in her hand, her heart pounding. After everything that had happened, after being humiliated and fired, she should throw it away. But something made her slip it into her pocket instead. She spent a restless night weighing her options. Without her job at the resort, she had no income. Her savings would cover next month's rent. But after that? And what about Tasha? The custody hearing was just 3 months away. Morning brought no clarity, only a pounding headache and a sense of desperation. She made coffee and checked her phone. 3 missed calls from Tasha's social worker. That couldn't be good. When she called back, Ms. Patel's voice was sympathetic but firm. "I received a concerning call yesterday, Layla, from your former employer." Layla's stomach dropped. "What did they say?" "That you were terminated for inappropriate behavior with a guest." Ms. Patel paused. "I don't need to tell you how this looks for your custody application." "It's not what it sounds like," Layla said desperately. "I was set up by—" "I've known you for 3 years," Ms. Patel interrupted. "I believe you're a good person who wants the best for Tasha. But the judge will need to see stability, a steady job, reliable housing. Your next home visit is in 2 weeks. I suggest you use that time to find new employment." After hanging up, Layla sat at her kitchen table, trying not to panic. New jobs didn't just appear overnight, especially ones that paid as well as the resort. And who would hire her without a reference? The key card seemed to burn in her pocket. Cameron had found her address, sent her a message. But what did he really want? And could she trust him after Jessica's appearance? Only one way to find out. Getting back into the resort wasn't easy. Layla wore sunglasses and a hat pulled low, keeping her head down as she walked through the main entrance. Her heart pounded as she passed the front desk, expecting to be stopped at any moment. But the lobby was busy with new arrivals, and no one paid attention to her. The elevator ride to the 8th floor felt endless. What if Cameron wasn't there? What if Jessica was with him? What if this was all some cruel joke? Outside room 808, she hesitated, key card in hand. Then, taking a deep breath, she swiped it. The door unlocked with a soft click. Layla pushed it open slowly, not knowing what to expect. The suite was empty but not abandoned. Cameron's laptop sat on the desk. A half-empty coffee cup on the table suggested he'd been there recently. Layla moved further into the room, noticing a folder with her name on it. Before she could look inside, the door to the balcony opened. Cameron stepped in, phone to his ear, not yet noticing her presence. "I don't care what the board thinks," he was saying, his voice tense. "The evidence is clear. Jessica and Michael manipulated the financial reports. I want them both charged with fraud." He turned and froze when he saw Layla. Relief washed over his face. "I have to go," he said into the phone. "Call me when the papers are ready." He ended the call and took a step toward her, then stopped, uncertainty in his eyes. "You came," he said simply. "Your note didn't give me much choice." Layla held up the keycard. "How did you find my address?" "I had my driver follow you home once," he admitted. "After our dinner, I wanted to make sure you got back safely." "That's borderline stalking, Cameron." "I know." He ran a hand through his hair. "I'm not good at this. Normal relationships. Normal boundaries. You can say that again." Despite everything, Layla found herself fighting a smile. There was something endearing about his awkward honesty. "I heard what happened," he said, his expression turning serious. "Jessica came to the resort without telling me. By the time I found out she'd gotten you fired, it was too late. She said she's still your fiancé. She's lying." His voice was firm. "Our engagement ended the day I discovered her betrayal. She's desperate to get back together because her family's investment firm is tanking. They need access to Privasphere's technology. And you believe I'll just take your word for that, after everything that's happened?" Cameron moved to the desk and picked up the folder with her name on it. This might help. Inside were printouts of emails between Jessica and the resort manager, dated the day before Layla was fired. Jessica had offered a substantial donation to the resort's renovation fund in exchange for Layla's termination. "She set me up," Layla whispered, anger building as she read, "and Mr. Phillips went along with it for money." "Jessica's family has been buying people for generations," Cameron said bitterly. "It's the only way they know how to operate." Layla looked up from the papers. Why are you showing me this? Because I want you to understand what we're dealing with. He moved closer. Jessica won't stop. She sees you as a threat. To what? I'm nobody. You're not nobody. The intensity in his voice made her breath catch. You're the woman I'm falling in love with. The woman who showed me what real connection feels like. Layla took a step back, overwhelmed. Cameron, I lost my job because of you. My custody case for Tasha is in jeopardy. I can't afford to get caught up in your drama with Jessica. I know. He nodded solemnly. That's why I want to help. I don't want your money, she said automatically. Not money, a job. He gestured to another folder on the desk. A legitimate one, with a company I respect. Layla hesitated, then opened the folder. Inside was information about a property management firm that specialized in high-end vacation rentals along the coast. According to the papers, they were looking for a housekeeping supervisor. Coastal luxury properties? She looked up, confused. How did you... The owner is an old college friend. When I explained your situation without the personal details, he agreed to interview you. Your experience at the Seabreeze makes you qualified. Cameron touched her arm gently. It's not charity, Layla. It's an opportunity you deserve. And what's the catch? She searched his face. What do you want in return? Nothing. He stepped back, giving her space. If you decide you never want to see me again after this, I'll understand. But at least you'll have a fair shot at building the life you want with Tasha. His words hung in the air between them. Layla wanted to believe him, wanted to believe that someone could care about her future without expecting anything in return. It had been so long since anyone had put her needs first. I don't know what to say, she admitted finally. Say you'll take the interview. Cameron smiled tentatively. After that, whatever happens between us, it's your choice. Layla nodded slowly. Okay, I'll take the interview. His smile widened, relief evident in his eyes. There's one more thing. He walked to the closet and pulled out a small wrapped package. I got this for Tasha. He handed it to Layla. From what you've told me about her, I thought she might like it. Layla unwrapped the package to find a beautiful leather-bound sketchbook and a set of professional drawing pencils. You mentioned she loves art, Cameron explained. That she wants to be a graphic designer someday. The thoughtfulness of the gift made Layla's throat tight with emotion. He had been listening, really listening. Thank you, she said softly. She'll love it. An awkward silence fell between them. There was so much unsaid, so many complications still to face. What happens now? Layla asked finally. That depends on you. Cameron took a deep breath. I meant what I said in my note. I want you in my life, Layla. But I understand if that's not possible right now. She looked at him, really looked, and saw the vulnerability beneath his confident exterior. He was as scared as she was in his own way, as uncertain about where this unlikely connection might lead. I need time, she said honestly, to sort things out with Tasha, to get back on my feet. I can't jump into anything serious right now. I understand. Disappointment flickered in his eyes, but he nodded. The job interview is tomorrow at 10. The address is in the folder. No strings attached. Layla gathered the folders and Tasha's gift, feeling the weight of decisions yet to be made. At the door, she turned back. Thank you, she said, for not giving up on me. Cameron's smile was sad, but hopeful. Some things are worth fighting for. The offices of Coastal Luxury Properties were housed in a renovated beach cottage a few miles down the coast from the Seabreeze resort. Layla arrived early for her interview, dressed in her best blazer and skirt, nervous but determined. David Chen, the owner, was nothing like she expected. In his early 30s, with a relaxed manner and casual clothes, he seemed more like a surfer than a businessman. Cameron speaks very highly of you, he said after they'd exchanged pleasantries. Says you have an eye for detail that's rare in the industry. I take pride in my work, Layla replied carefully. But I should be honest, I was fired from the Seabreeze. David waved a hand dismissively. I know all about Phillips and his operation. That place has been cutting corners for years. Besides, anyone Jessica Barrett has a vendetta against is someone I want to meet. Layla raised an eyebrow. You know Jessica? Unfortunately, David grimaced. Her family tried to buy this company last year when beach property values skyrocketed. I told them no, and they've been trying to run me out of business ever since. So you're offering me this job to spite them? Layla couldn't keep the edge from her voice. I'm offering you this job because we need someone with your experience. David leaned forward. Cameron mentioned you have ideas about eco-friendly cleaning services for high-end properties. That aligns perfectly with our brand. The interview shifted into a discussion about Layla's business plan. David asked thoughtful questions, taking notes as she explained her vision for sustainable practices that didn't compromise quality. What if, instead of starting from scratch, you developed this program within our company? He suggested. We have the client base, the properties. You have the expertise and vision. You'd let me run my own division. Layla couldn't hide her surprise. With supervision at first, of course, but yes, that's the idea. David smiled. The salary would be competitive, better than the sea breeze with benefits and regular hours. It sounded too good to be true. And Cameron? How much influence does he have over your decision? Cameron recommended you. That got you the interview. David's expression turned serious. But this offer is based on your qualifications and ideas. Take some time to think about it. Layla left the interview with her head spinning. The opportunity was everything she needed. Better pay, regular hours, a chance to build something of her own within an established company. If she accepted, she could find a better apartment, strengthen her custody case for Tasha, but the timing made her suspicious. Was this really about her abilities, or was it Cameron pulling strings again? As she walked along the beach, trying to clear her head, her phone rang. It was Ms. Patel. "I've been trying to reach you," the social worker said without preamble. "There's been a development with Tasha's case." Layla's heart sank. What kind of development? A complaint was filed, alleging you're an unfit guardian due to unstable employment and moral character. What? Layla stopped walking, shock coursing through her. Who would? The complaint was anonymous, but it came with documentation of your termination from the resort. Jessica. It had to be Jessica. Layla's hands shook with anger and fear. "That's not fair. I was set up." "I believe you," Ms. Patel said gently, "but the judge will need more than your word. Have you found new employment?" Layla thought of the job offer from David Chen. "I have an opportunity, a good one." "That's a start, but the custody hearing has been moved up 2 weeks from now." 2 weeks? Panic rose in Layla's throat. "But that's not enough time to—" "I'm sorry, Layla. These decisions aren't in my hands." Ms. Patel paused. "Do you have anyone who can speak to your character? References who aren't connected to the resort?" Layla's mind raced. Her neighbors, former classmates, but no one with the kind of influence that might counterbalance an accusation like this. Except, "I'll figure something out," she said, determination replacing fear. "This is just another attempt to keep me and Tasha apart. It won't work." After hanging up, Layla made a decision. She pulled out her phone and dialed the number Cameron had given her. "Layla?" His voice was surprised but pleased. "I didn't expect to hear from you so soon." "I need your help," she said, the words difficult but necessary. "It's about Tasha." Cameron met her at a small cafe near her apartment. His face darkened with anger as Layla explained the situation. "Jessica," he said, his voice tight, "this has her fingerprints all over it. Can you prove it?" Layla asked. "If we could show the judge that this complaint is just retaliation, I'll have my legal team look into it immediately." Cameron reached across the table and took her hand. "I'm so sorry, Layla. This is all happening because of me." "No," she shook her head firmly. "This is happening because a privileged woman can't stand the idea of losing. To you or to me." Cameron squeezed her hand. "We'll fight this together, if you'll let me." The simple offer of partnership, of not having to face this battle alone, brought tears to Layla's eyes. For 3 years, she'd carried the weight of responsibility for Tasha by herself. The idea of sharing that burden, even a little, was overwhelming. "I took the job," she said, changing the subject before emotion overtook her. "David called an hour ago. I start on Monday." Cameron's face lit up. "That's wonderful. I knew he'd see how valuable you are." "Did you tell him to offer me my own division? The eco-friendly cleaning program?" "What? No." Cameron looked genuinely surprised. That must have been his idea. David's always been passionate about sustainability. Layla studied his face, looking for signs of deception, but found only honest enthusiasm. "Okay," she said finally. "I believe you." "Good," he smiled, "because I want you to believe me when I say we're going to win this custody battle too." Over the next week, Layla threw herself into her new job. David was a demanding but fair boss, and the work challenged her in ways her position at the resort never had. She was responsible for developing cleaning protocols, training staff, and creating a sustainability program that would set coastal luxury properties apart from competitors. Meanwhile, Cameron's legal team worked tirelessly on Tasha's case. They traced the anonymous complaint back to a law firm that frequently represented the Barrett family. It wasn't definitive proof of Jessica's involvement, but it was enough to raise questions about the complaint's validity. 3 days before the custody hearing, Cameron invited Layla to dinner at his new rental house, a modest beachfront cottage, nothing like the luxury suite at the resort. "I thought you'd be heading back to New York by now," Layla said as they sat on the porch watching the sunset. "My plans have changed." Cameron's voice was casual, but his eyes were intent as they met hers. "I've decided to stay in North Carolina for a while, work remotely." "Because of me?" The question was direct, but they had moved beyond games. "Partly," he admitted, "but also because I've realized how toxic my life in New York had become. The constant pressure, the politics, the people who only saw me as a walking bank account." He gestured to the simple beauty of the beach before them. "This feels more real." "And Privasphere? Your company?" "The board has approved my proposal to work remotely, while the legal issues with Jessica and Michael are resolved." His expression hardened. "The evidence against them is substantial. It's only a matter of time before they face charges." "Will that clear your name, restore your reputation?" "Eventually," he shrugged. "But I've realized something important, Layla. My reputation isn't who I am. Neither is my company or my bank account." "Who are you then?" she asked softly. Cameron reached for her hand. "I'm still figuring that out, but I know I'm someone who wants to be worthy of a second chance. With you." The intensity in his eyes made her heart race. Over the past weeks, as they'd worked together to prepare for Tasha's hearing, Layla had seen a different side of Cameron. Not the impulsive billionaire who thought money could solve every problem, but a determined ally who respected her independence while offering genuine support. "What if the hearing doesn't go well?" she asked, voicing her deepest fear. "What if all this isn't enough? Then we'll appeal. We'll fight harder." He squeezed her hand. "I'm not giving up, Layla. On Tasha's case or on us." The certainty in his voice gave her courage. For the first time in years, she wasn't facing her battles alone. "There's something I want you to know," she said, making a decision. "Whatever happens at the hearing, I'm grateful you walked into my life, or that I walked into your room technically." Cameron laughed, the sound warm in the gathering twilight. "Best mistake ever." He leaned forward slowly, giving her time to pull away, but Layla didn't want to pull away. She met him halfway, their lips coming together in a kiss that felt like coming home. The family court was housed in a stern brick building in downtown Wilmington. Layla wore her new suit, purchased with her first paycheck from Coastal Luxury Properties, and tried to project confidence as she sat beside her lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Rebecca, whom Cameron had recommended. Tasha sat across the aisle with her foster mother, a kind but overwhelmed woman who had too many children in her care. When Tasha caught Layla's eye, she gave a small, hopeful smile. At 16, she looked so much like their mother, same warm brown eyes, same stubborn chin. Layla had given her Cameron's gift during their last supervised visit. Tasha had been suspicious at first. "Who is this guy buying me presents?" but had melted when she saw the quality of the sketchbook and pencils. The court proceedings began with the usual formalities. The judge, an older woman with steel-grey hair and piercing eyes, reviewed the case file with methodical care. "I see there's been a recent complaint filed against Ms. Monroe," she noted, peering over her reading glasses, "alleging unstable employment and questionable moral character." Rebecca stood. "Your Honor, we have evidence that this complaint was filed maliciously as retaliation for events unrelated to Ms. Monroe's capabilities as a guardian." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Proceed." Rebecca presented the evidence Cameron's team had gathered. The connection to the Barrett family's law firm, the suspicious timing, the coincidence of Jessica's appearance at the resort just before Layla's termination. Furthermore, Rebecca continued, Ms. Monroe has secured new employment with Coastal Luxury Properties, where she now holds a management position developing their sustainability program. David Chen took the stand next, speaking glowingly of Layla's work ethic and innovative ideas. "In the short time she's been with us, Ms. Monroe has already implemented changes that have improved our operations considerably. She's exactly the kind of steady, forward-thinking person we need." The judge nodded, making notes. "And housing. The previous application was denied partly due to inadequate living arrangements. Ms. Monroe has secured a 2-bedroom apartment in the Riverside complex," Rebecca said, presenting the lease agreement. "It's in a safe neighborhood with good schools nearby." Layla held her breath as the judge reviewed the documents. Everything they were saying was true. After accepting the job at Coastal Luxury Properties, she'd been able to put a deposit on the apartment she'd been saving for. It was nothing fancy, but it had a bedroom for Tasha, a small study area and a shared swimming pool that teenagers would actually enjoy. "I'd like to hear from Tasha Monroe," the judge said finally. Tasha approached the stand, nervously tugging at the sleeve of her cardigan. At the judge's gentle questioning, she spoke about her relationship with Layla, about the weekly phone calls and visits, about how her sister had never missed a school event despite working long hours. "And how would you feel about living with your sister?" the judge asked. "It's all I want," Tasha said simply. "She's my only real family. She's been fighting for me since Mom died." The judge turned to the social worker next. Ms. Patel's testimony was carefully neutral, but ultimately supportive. "Ms. Monroe has demonstrated consistent commitment to her sister's welfare. The recent employment issues appear to be an anomaly in an otherwise stable situation." Finally, to Layla's surprise, the judge called Cameron to testify. He wore a simple suit, nothing flashy, and spoke with quiet conviction about Layla's character. "I've known Layla Monroe for only a short time," he acknowledged, "but in that time I've seen her demonstrate remarkable integrity, work ethic, and devotion to her sister. Every decision she makes is with Tasha's welfare in mind." "Mr. Holt," the judge said, studying him over her glasses, "your affidavit indicates you're the CEO of Privasphere Technologies." "Yes, Your Honor." "That's a significant position. Why are you involving yourself in this case?" Cameron didn't hesitate. "Because I believe in Layla Monroe, and because I understand what it means to be separated from family. These sisters belong together." The judge considered this, then turned to Layla. "Ms. Monroe, do you have anything to add before I make my ruling?" Layla stood, her heart pounding. "Only that I've spent the last 3 years working toward this day. Everything I do, every extra shift, every night class, every penny saved, has been for Tasha. She is my purpose, my responsibility, and my joy. I'm asking for the chance to give her the home she deserves." The courtroom fell silent as the judge reviewed her notes one final time. Layla held her breath, feeling the weight of years of hope and struggle pressing down on her. "It is the finding of this court," the judge began, "that Layla Monroe has demonstrated significant improvement in her circumstances since the previous hearing. The recent employment disruption appears to be an outlier, not a pattern, and has been successfully addressed. The anonymous complaint shows signs of potential malicious intent and will not be given undue weight." Layla's heart soared as the judge continued. "Therefore, custody of Tasha Monroe is granted to her sister, Layla Monroe, effective immediately, with a probationary period of 6 months and regular check-ins with family services." Tears sprang to Layla's eyes as Tasha rushed across the courtroom and threw her arms around her. They clung to each other, 3 years of separation finally ending. "We did it," Layla whispered, stroking her sister's hair. "We're going home." Over Tasha's shoulder, she caught Cameron's eye. He stood at a respectful distance, giving the sisters their moment, but the pride and joy in his face was unmistakable. Outside the courthouse, as Tasha chatted excitedly with Ms. Patel about the transition process, Cameron approached Layla. "Congratulations," he said softly. "No one deserves this more than you." "I couldn't have done it without you," she admitted. "Your connections, your lawyers, your testimony. You would have found a way," he said with certainty. "That's who you are, Layla, someone who never gives up on the people she loves." The words hung between them, laden with meaning. "What happens now?" she asked, echoing the question she'd asked in his hotel room weeks ago. Cameron smiled, his eyes full of hope and possibility. "That's still up to you, but I'd like to be part of whatever comes next, if you'll have me." Tasha returned to Layla's side, eyeing Cameron with curious suspicion. "So you're the famous Cameron," she said, looking him up and down. "The one who bought me the expensive art supplies." "Guilty," he admitted with a smile. "I heard you're an amazing artist." "I'm okay," Tasha shrugged, but Layla could see she was pleased by the compliment. "Are you my sister's boyfriend or something?" Layla felt her cheeks warm. "Tasha, that's not—" "We're friends," Cameron said smoothly, "who are figuring things out." Tasha looked between them, her teenage perception missing nothing. "Uh-huh. Well, just so you know, we're a package deal now. You want my sister? You get me too." "Tasha." Layla was mortified, but Cameron laughed. "I wouldn't have it any other way," he said, his eyes meeting Layla's with a promise that made her heart skip. As they walked together toward the parking lot, Tasha racing ahead in her excitement, Cameron took Layla's hand. "Room for 2 has become room for 3, he said softly. "I think I can handle that." Layla squeezed his hand, allowing herself to believe for the first time that some accidents were meant to happen, that sometimes walking into the wrong room led you exactly where you were supposed to be. But as they reached Cameron's car, a sleek black sedan pulled up beside them. The window rolled down to reveal Jessica's perfect face, her expression a mask of cold fury. "Enjoy your little victory while it lasts," she said, her gaze shifting from Cameron to Layla. "This isn't over. Not by a long shot." Before either could respond, the car pulled away, leaving a chill in the warm spring air. Layla looked at Cameron, fear replacing joy. What did she mean by that? "It's just threats," Cameron said, but his expression was troubled. "Jessica doesn't like to lose." "Neither do I," Layla said firmly, watching Tasha waiting impatiently by Cameron's car. "Not when it comes to the people I love." The words slipped out before she could stop them. Cameron's eyes widened, then softened with emotion. "Then we'll face whatever comes next together," he said, his voice a promise. "All three of us." But as they drove away from the courthouse, toward the new apartment and the new life waiting for them, Layla couldn't shake the feeling that Jessica's threat wasn't empty, that the happiness they'd found was more fragile than it seemed. And she was right, because what none of them knew was that Jessica Barrett had one more card to play, a secret that would test everything they'd built together. 2 months passed in a blur of new routines and quiet joy. Layla and Tasha settled into their apartment, decorating it with thrift store finds and photos of their mother. Tasha started at her new school, where her art teacher immediately recognized her talent and encouraged her to apply for summer programs. Layla's position at Coastal Luxury Properties flourished. Her eco-friendly cleaning program was implemented across all their properties, and David had already mentioned a year-end bonus if the client feedback continued to be positive. And then there was Cameron. He had become a constant in their lives, though he maintained his own place, the beach cottage he'd rented after leaving the resort. He joined them for dinner several nights a week, helped Tasha with her math homework, brought Layla coffee at work when she was having a stressful day. It was domestic, normal, everything Layla had never dared to hope for. "You're good for him," David told her one afternoon as they walked through a newly acquired property. "I've known Cameron for 10 years and I've never seen him this grounded." "He's good for us too," Layla admitted. "Tasha actually likes him, which is a miracle. She hated the last guy I dated." "And you?" David asked with a knowing smile. "How do you feel about him?" The question made her pause. How did she feel? The attraction had been there from the beginning, that spark of connection in room 808. But over these past months, it had deepened into something more substantial. Trust, partnership, maybe even... "It's complicated," she said finally. David laughed. "The best things usually are." That evening, as Layla cooked dinner, her phone rang with an unfamiliar number. "Is this Layla Monroe?" a woman's voice asked when she answered. "Yes, who's calling?" "My name is Andrea Wilcox. I'm a reporter with the Business Observer." The woman's tone was brisk, professional. "I'm writing a story about Cameron Holt and Privasphere, and I was hoping you might comment on your relationship with him." Layla's hand tightened on the phone. "I don't have any comment. How did you get this number?" "It's a matter of public record, Ms. Monroe." Andrea paused. "Are you aware that Cameron Holt's legal team has filed fraud charges against Jessica Barrett and Michael Donovan? The case is going to trial next month." "I know about the charges, yes." "And are you aware that Ms. Barrett has made certain allegations about you in her counterfiling?" Layla's blood ran cold. "What kind of allegations?" "She claims Mr. Holt hired you to seduce and spy on her during her stay at the Seabreeze Resort. That your relationship with him was initially a paid arrangement." "That's absurd." Layla's voice rose, drawing Tasha's attention from the living room. "I never even met Jessica Barrett until after she got me fired." "So you deny being paid by Mr. Holt for any services beyond your resort duties?" The careful phrasing made Layla's stomach turn. "I was never paid by Cameron for anything. Our relationship began by accident and developed naturally. Jessica Barrett is lying because she's facing fraud charges." "One more question, Ms. Monroe. Have you or your sister received any financial support from Mr. Holt? Property, gifts, assistance with legal fees?" Layla hesitated, thinking of the lawyers Cameron had provided for the custody hearing, the job connection with David, the art supplies for Tasha. None of it had been a payment for services, but from the outside, how would it look? "I have no further comment," she said stiffly. "And if you print lies about me or my sister, I'll sue your paper for defamation." She hung up, hands shaking. "Who was that?" Tasha asked, coming into the kitchen. "No one important," Layla forced a smile. "Just a work thing. How's that art project coming?" But as she finished making dinner, dread settled in her stomach. Jessica had found a new angle of attack, not just against Cameron, but against Layla herself. When Cameron arrived an hour later, she pulled him aside while Tasha finished her homework. "We need to talk," she said in a low voice, recounting the call from the reporter. Cameron's face darkened with anger. "Jessica's getting desperate. The evidence against her is overwhelming and the trial date is set. This is her trying to muddy the waters." "By dragging my name through the mud," Layla said bitterly, "making it sound like I was some kind of hired companion. No reputable paper would print those accusations without evidence." Cameron squeezed her hand. "And there is no evidence because it never happened. But they'll print that I refuse to comment, that there are allegations, and people will talk." Layla pulled her hand away. "The custody arrangement is still probationary, Cameron. If the social worker sees these kinds of stories, I'll have my legal team send a cease and desist letter to the paper." Cameron's voice was firm. "We'll make it clear that any publication of false allegations will result in immediate legal action. That might stop this reporter, but it won't stop Jessica." Layla sighed. "As long as we're together, she'll keep coming after me." "Are you saying we shouldn't be together?" The hurt in Cameron's voice made her chest ache. "I'm saying I can't risk Tasha's stability. Not for anything. Not even for—" She trailed off, unable to finish the thought. "For us," Cameron supplied quietly. "I understand, Layla. Your sister comes first. She always has. I'm sorry." Tears pricked at her eyes. "I just need time to figure this out." Cameron nodded, his expression resigned. "Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere." But as he left that night earlier than usual, the distance between them felt greater than ever before. The next morning, Layla dropped Tasha at school and headed to work, trying to focus on the day ahead rather than the conversation with Cameron. The coastal properties needed preparing for the summer rush, and she had staff schedules to finalize. She was midway through training a new cleaning team when her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. When she opened it, her heart stopped. It was a photo of Cameron and another woman entering a hotel together. The timestamp showed it was from last night, just hours after he'd left her apartment. The woman was beautiful, tall, elegant, with flowing dark hair. A second text followed. "He'll never really choose someone like you. Men like Cameron Holt always return to their own kind." Layla deleted the messages, hands shaking. It had to be from Jessica or someone working for her. A mind game, nothing more. But the seed of doubt had been planted. What did she really know about Cameron's life when he wasn't with her and Tasha? He still ran a multi-billion-dollar company, still moved in circles she couldn't imagine. The woman in the photo looked like she belonged in those circles. Layla didn't. Throughout the day, more texts arrived, more photos of Cameron with the mystery woman, in a restaurant, walking along the beach, heads close together in what looked like intimate conversation. By the time she picked Tasha up from school, Layla was a mess of confusion and hurt. "What's wrong?" Tasha asked immediately, always perceptive. "You look awful." "Thanks a lot," Layla tried to joke. "Just tired." "Is it Cameron? Did you guys have a fight?" "No, nothing like that." Layla forced a smile. "How was school?" But Tasha wasn't easily distracted. "You're lying. Something's wrong." When they got home, Layla found a large envelope propped against their door. Inside were printouts of all the photos she'd received by text, plus others. A note written in elegant script said simply, "Ask him about Sophia." "Who's Sophia?" Tasha asked, reading over her shoulder. "I don't know." Layla gathered the photos quickly. "It's nothing, Tash, just someone trying to cause trouble." But the worry must have shown on her face, because Tasha's expression turned fierce. "Is someone messing with you?" "With us, because we've been through too much to let anyone ruin things now." The protective anger in her sister's voice nearly brought Layla to tears. "I'll handle it, I promise. Why don't you start your homework? I need to make a call." In her bedroom, door closed, Layla called Cameron. "Can you come over tonight?" she asked without preamble. "We need to talk." "Of course." He sounded relieved. "Is everything okay? Just come at 7, please." She spent the next few hours in a state of anxious anticipation. Part of her wanted to believe there was an innocent explanation for the photos. The other part, the part that had been disappointed too many times before, prepared for the worst. When Cameron arrived, Tasha greeted him with her usual fist bump, but Layla remained distant. "Can we talk privately?" she asked, nodding toward the small balcony off the living room. Outside, with the door closed, she handed him the envelope of photos. "Who is Sophia?" Cameron looked confused as he opened the envelope. His expression changed to recognition, then understanding as he flipped through the pictures. "Where did you get these?" he asked, his voice carefully controlled. They were delivered to our door. I got texts too. Layla crossed her arms. Who is she, Cameron? Sophia Chen is David's sister. She's a corporate attorney. He looked up, his eyes meeting Layla's. She's representing Privasphere in the case against Jessica and Michael. Relief warred with embarrassment in Layla's chest. So these meetings were about the case? Yes. Cameron handed the photos back. We had dinner to discuss strategy. Then she came to my place to review documents. We walked on the beach because she was stressed and needed air. Why didn't you tell me you were meeting with her? Because we agreed last night that you needed space, that Tasha had to come first. His voice was gentle but hurt. I was respecting your boundaries, Layla. Shame washed over her. I'm sorry. When I saw the photos, you thought I was hiding something. Cameron nodded sadly. That's the problem, isn't it? There's still part of you that doesn't trust me. That's waiting for me to be like every other wealthy person who's looked down on you. His insight hit too close to home. Layla turned away, staring out at the darkening sky. Can you blame me? 2 minutes into meeting you, you tried to give me $100 tip, like I was a service to be purchased. I know. I was thoughtless. Cameron moved closer. But haven't I proven since then that I see you? The real you? Jessica doesn't think so. She's convinced I was some kind of hired companion. The words tasted bitter. And now she's telling reporters, sending photos, trying to make me doubt everything between us. Because it's working, Cameron said quietly. She's found your weak spot. Our weak spot. And what's that? The fear that we don't belong together. That our different backgrounds make this impossible. He gestured to the photos. But look at these, Layla. Really look. Do you know what Jessica doesn't understand? What? That I'm more myself with you and Tasha than I've ever been with anyone in my own world, as she puts it. His voice was raw with emotion. That helping Tasha with her math homework feels more meaningful than closing $1 billion deal. That watching you build your program at Coastal feels more inspiring than any tech innovation. Layla's eyes filled with tears. But Jessica's not going to stop. The reporter, the photos, it's just the beginning. You're right. Cameron took a deep breath. She won't stop unless we make her stop. How? By taking away her leverage. The reason the Privasphere case matters so much to her family is that they're nearly bankrupt. The Barrett investment firm made some bad bets last year. They need the sale of Privasphere to go through to stay afloat. So what if I offered them a deal? A settlement that would keep them from financial ruin in exchange for Jessica backing off completely from the company, from me, from you and Tasha. You'd do that? After everything she's done? For you? Cameron's eyes held hers. In a heartbeat. The certainty in his voice broke something open inside Layla. All these months, she'd been holding back, protecting herself from the possibility that this was temporary, that someone like Cameron couldn't really want someone like her for the long haul. But looking at him now, she knew the truth. He wasn't going anywhere, and neither was she. No, she said firmly. We're not giving Jessica a cent. She committed fraud. She tried to destroy your company, your reputation. She got me fired and nearly cost me custody of Tasha. We're not rewarding that behavior. Cameron looked surprised, then pleased. What do you suggest instead? We fight back, together. Layla straightened her shoulders. Your legal team against her lies, the truth against her manipulation. And if she wants to drag my name into it, fine. I have nothing to hide. A slow smile spread across Cameron's face. There's the fighter I fell in love with. The words hung in the air between them. He'd never said it so directly before. You love me? Layla asked softly. More than I thought possible. Cameron moved closer, taking her hands in his. I love your strength, your determination, your heart. I love the way you are with Tasha, the way you never give up. I love that you walked into my hotel room by accident and changed my life on purpose. Layla's heart felt too full, emotions she'd kept carefully contained now spilling over. I love you too, she whispered. I think I have since that first night when you asked me to stay, when you looked at me like I was someone worth seeing. You are. Cameron's voice was fierce. So you always have been. Their lips met in a kiss that felt like a promise, a beginning. When they finally broke apart, Layla rested her forehead against his. So what happens now? She asked. With Jessica? With the case? Now we fight back, Cameron said, echoing her words. But first, he pulled away slightly, reaching into his pocket. I was going to wait, but after everything that's happened today, I don't want to waste any more time. He opened his hand to reveal a small velvet box. Layla's breath caught. Cameron, I'm not proposing, not yet. He smiled at her shocked expression. This is a promise ring, a symbol that whatever comes next, we face it together. He opened the box to reveal a simple silver band with a small sapphire, the color of the ocean view from room 808. "It's beautiful," Layla whispered. "May I?" When she nodded, Cameron slipped the ring onto her right hand. "A promise that I'm not going anywhere. That whatever Jessica throws at us, whatever challenges come our way, I'm in this for the long haul." Tears spilled down Layla's cheeks. "I'm in it too, all the way." A tap on the glass door interrupted them. Tasha stood there, arms crossed, looking impatient. "If you two are done being all gross and romantic," she called through the glass, "I ordered pizza, and I need help with my science project." Layla laughed, wiping away her tears. "Duty calls." Cameron grinned. "I wouldn't have it any other way." As they followed Tasha inside, Layla felt a certainty she'd never known before. Whatever Jessica Barrett had planned, she couldn't touch what they'd built together. This little family of three, created by chance and strengthened by choice, was stronger than any outside force. The trial of Jessica Barrett and Michael Donovan versus Privasphere Technologies began 3 weeks later. As Cameron had predicted, Jessica's legal team attempted to introduce Layla's name into the proceedings, suggesting impropriety and conspiracy, but they'd prepared for this. Layla took the stand with calm dignity, telling the simple truth. She'd met Cameron by accident while cleaning his room. They'd developed a genuine connection, and any suggestion of payment for services was a malicious fabrication. Her testimony was corroborated by resort staff, who confirmed the mix-up with the room assignment, by David Chen, who attested to Layla's professional qualifications for the job he'd offered her, even by Tasha, who described with teenage bluntness how her sister and Cameron had danced around each other like awkward idiots before finally admitting their feelings. Jessica's counterclaims crumbled under scrutiny. The financial records clearly showed the fraud she and Michael had committed. The timeline of events supported Cameron's version of events, and perhaps most damaging of all, other former associates of Jessica came forward with stories of similar manipulation and deceit. On the final day of the trial, as they waited for the verdict, Layla sat beside Cameron in the courtroom, her hand clasped tightly in his. "Whatever happens," she whispered, "we already won." He squeezed her hand. "How do you figure? We found each other. We didn't let her break us apart." Layla touched the promise ring on her right hand. "That's the real victory." When the verdict came, it was decisive. Jessica Barrett and Michael Donovan were found guilty on all counts. The judge ordered full restitution to Privasphere, plus damages. Jessica's face was ashen as the bailiff led her away. Outside the courthouse, reporters crowded around Cameron, shouting questions about the future of Privasphere, his plans for the company. "Mr. Holt, will you be returning to New York now that your name has been cleared?" Cameron looked at Layla, who stood slightly apart from the media circus, Tasha beside her. His smile was private, meant only for them. "No," he said, turning back to the reporters. "My home is here now. Privasphere will maintain its headquarters in New York, but I'll be opening a research division in North Carolina." "Does this have anything to do with your relationship with Layla Monroe?" a reporter called out. "That has everything to do with her," Cameron said simply, "and with finding what really matters." He stepped away from the microphones then, joining Layla and Tasha at the edge of the crowd. "Ready to go home?" he asked. Tasha rolled her eyes. "You guys are so cheesy, but I'm starving, so yes." As they walked to the car, Layla slipped her hand into Cameron's. "Did you mean that? About staying in North Carolina?" "Every word." He lifted her hand to his lips. "I've been talking to David about it for weeks. We're going to partner on a tech initiative for sustainable property management. Your eco-friendly program will be the cornerstone." "You're serious?" Layla stopped walking, stunned, completely. Cameron's eyes were bright with excitement. "It combines my tech background with your expertise. We'll start local, then expand. David's already lined up investors. Partners in business and in life," Layla said softly. "Who would have thought?" "I did," Tasha chimed in from ahead of them. "From like the second day. You guys are super obvious." Layla laughed, the sound free and light. "When did you get so smart?" "I've always been smart," Tasha said with teenage confidence. "I just needed you two to catch up." 6 months later, Layla stood on the balcony of their new house, watching the sunset over the ocean. It wasn't as grand as the mansions further down the beach, but with 4 bedrooms, a spacious kitchen, and a studio space for Tasha's art, it was perfect for them. The coastal eco-management program she'd developed with Cameron and David had expanded to 3 states, with contracts from major property management firms. Layla now headed a team of 20, implementing sustainable practices in vacation rentals along the eastern seaboard. Behind her, the house hummed with activity. Tasha was setting the table for dinner, her hair now dyed with streaks of purple that matched her latest art series. David and Sophia Chen were in the kitchen, arguing good-naturedly about the proper way to make sangria. Ms. Patel, now a family friend rather than just Tasha's social worker, was arranging flowers in a vase. "Penny for your thoughts," Cameron said, joining Layla on the balcony. He slipped his arms around her waist, pulling her back against his chest. "Just thinking about how much has changed in a year," she said, leaning into him. "From cleaning hotel rooms to this. Having regrets?" he asked, only half joking. Layla turned in his arms. "Not a single one." "Good." Cameron smiled down at her. "Because I have a question for you." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box, different from the one that had held her promise ring. "Cameron," Layla's heart raced as he dropped to one knee. "Layla Monroe," he said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "You walked into my room by accident and into my heart on purpose. You showed me what really matters. You built a home with me when I'd forgotten what home felt like." He opened the box to reveal a stunning sapphire ring. "Will you marry me?" "Yes," Layla whispered, tears of joy spilling down her cheeks. "Yes, of course, yes." As he slipped the ring onto her finger, replacing the promise ring with this more permanent commitment, applause erupted from the doorway. Tasha stood there, grinning, with David, Sophia, and Miss Patel behind her. "Finally!" Tasha exclaimed. "I was getting tired of waiting." Cameron laughed as he stood, pulling Layla close. "You knew?" "Duh." Tasha rolled her eyes. "You asked my permission last week. Did you think I could keep that a secret?" "I was counting on it," Cameron admitted. "I wanted everyone we loved to be here for this moment." Layla looked around at the small group of people who had become their family, not by blood, but by choice, by showing up, by believing in second chances and new beginnings. "I love you," she said, looking up at Cameron. "All of you," she added, including everyone in her gaze. As they moved inside for the celebration dinner, Layla paused for one last look at the sunset. A year ago, she'd been invisible, just another housekeeper moving silently through rooms that weren't hers. Now she was seen, known, loved, all because she'd been given the wrong key, all because she'd opened the wrong door, all because sometimes the biggest mistakes lead to the greatest joys. And in room 808, where it all began, a new guest had checked in, unaware of the story that had started there, unaware that a simple mix-up had changed two lives forever, unaware that sometimes walking into the wrong room at the right time was exactly where you were meant to be all along. That end.